So, guys, I do want to talk about Dalton Castle, and in my opinion, I do think that there's a lot of money to be made with Dalton Castle. And honestly, there are a lot of reasons for him to receive a mega push, and he's also extremely underrated. And there's a couple of things that I will say about him that, first of all, like, honestly, like, that very, like, flamboyant, the peacocks, the boys, and that presentation, and, like, he does have, like, a good voice. And, unlike the main people on the AEW roster, he knows how to talk. I do think that honestly, like AEW needs more characters. So honestly, you have something, very, very appealing about that. And that's kind of like my first argument that honestly, you have to really emphasize characters. The other thing is that, there's some strikes against Dalton Castle. Like he's over 40 and he's been featured on ROH a lot. So definitely if you want to show and raise some morale in AEW, you got to say, okay, some of the ROH people that you purchase can transition over to, the main roster. And I believe like Shane Taylor is another person. And also, I'm not really familiar with ROH, but there's definitely like a lot of just ROH people that they did get far as, from when they purchased ROH. That could be like, main event roster people, but they have to work really hard. But Dalton Castle does fall into that category. So I honestly think that, if you want to just say, okay, well, if you've been purchased through the ROH deal, you can definitely have a chance at the main roster. Just like when WWE purchased, WCW and Booker T became a champion, and then also Goldberg became a champion, and then also there was Chris Benoit and a few other people that became, on their roster. And then there's also, ECW when they got, Rob Van Dam and a few other, people as well, really. So it's good to just show that, okay, well, I purchased you through purchasing the company. It raises morale, really. The next thing that I would say is that, it would help Orange Cassidy, because the issue with Orange Cassidy is that, like I've said many times, he needs to be a more serious wrestler. He needs to get rid of the comedy kicks. He is at a point where I think he needs a character change. So if you do something like make Dalton Castle kind of like the funny character, and you do something with him, like give him like a 6-month tryout, he takes Orange Cassidy's spot, and then you make Orange Cassidy more serious. And then you get with the point with Dalton Castle that you actually, make him a bigger deal. You almost like do what you do with Eric Young. How he was kind of a joke, and then he actually became more serious. So there could be that with Dalton Castle. Like he can kind of like be like the comic relief a little bit, and then and the underdog, and then you have Orange Cassidy transition to a more serious wrestler. And I think that would be good because you can't have people stay the same, really. I think the fourth thing is that honestly you can tell a story of an underdog. Like honestly, like he's over 40, he has lost many matches. A lot of people say that he's very underrated, and there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of ways for him to get over. So I do think that there could be a story of him going after the ROH championship. Have you made the ROH championship a big deal? No, you haven't really. So what would happen if he went after the ROH championship? And like I said, I think what they should do is the ROH champion right now should be Jack Perry, or it should be the Young Bucks. Like they both, like you have to beat both Young Bucks to be the ROH champion. And imagine if that was Dalton Castle. Imagine if that was Dustin Rhodes. Or, imagine if, that was like another wrestler, like Mark Briscoe had to like beat both of them, really, like a 2-on-1 type of match, really. Imagine if you had that set up for Wembley Stadium, imagine, him getting close and not getting it and the tears from the audience. Or imagine if, he actually does that and there's a big like tears of joy, really. That would be a really great moment. And that brings me to the next thing. Like honestly, Dalton Castle going after the ROH championship and the right feud and the right characters would make the ROH title a big deal. Because I think that one bad thing that happens in WWE that they can learn from is you look at the ECW championship, it wasn't a big deal, or the WCW championship. I think they easily. I didn't watch wrestling back then, but I believe they actually just were more about making it the world heavyweight title instead of the WCW title. But when you have titles from other promotions that you purchase, or titles like the TNA title or the IWGP title, you have to make those titles mean something. You can't just kind of have wrestlers just face them and be like, oh my God, it's a significant thing. No, you have to make it actually mean something. And the ROH title does not have that. Learn from what you did with Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage for the TNA Championship. It really, they didn't do anything with it. It was nothing really special. But they can learn their lessons and make the ROH title very competitive. And then also, as I've said, that, what would happen if you have that's Dalton Castle? What would happen if Dustin Rhodes, who's never been a heavyweight champion on a television program, he's never held the WWE or World Heavyweight Champion, he's never held the ECW or TNA or WCW championship. What would happen if that's also like Dustin Rhodes' spot? You can have Dalton Castle versus Dustin Rhodes. Like the old man versus like the man that's gonna be there someday. The next thing that I would say is that he has a metrosexual gimmick. Like honestly, Dalton Castle is not gay. I believe he's actually married with a wife and he has kids. But definitely, with AEW, like honestly, when Max Caster and Anthony Bowens came out of the closet for being gay, you have Nyla Rose. I know like she's Nyla Rose identifies as a woman, transsexual if I'm correct, and Anthony Bowens identifies as homosexual, and you have some people in the roster that come out as bisexual, but there's also metrosexual, which if I'm correct, that means somebody who is straight into things that are associated with homosexual culture, like very flamboyant fashion. Like I think the Grand Wizard or Ric Flair was a great example because honestly, like the feathery dresses, that's a lot of people like. There's a lot of times that you see that in gay pride parades or you see classic drag queens wear all that. So he does have a very metrosexual look, and then he also has the boys around, honestly, there's like definitely a very like gay pride type of look when you look at him, and that's not a homophobic thing to say. That's just fact. He comes off as very, very metrosexual, and I think that if he really wants to make people who are metrosexual actually be represented by a wrestler, that actually is a really, really good thing. And then the next thing I've said is that he has a good voice. He does have a very like, flamboyant. He sounds a little bit like Uncle Fester a little bit, and he knows how to yell. He knows how to have like, bravado. He knows how to just have a personality. And that's kind of like the big issue in AEW. Wheeler Yuta, Kyle Fletcher, Kyle O'Reilly, Takeshita, and Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta, Chuck Taylor, Shane Taylor. There's a lot of people on that roster that either have mic skills and they don't build upon it, or they don't say anything memorable. They don't work at it, or there's people who can't speak on the microphone. You need people who can talk because it's character journey. It's character journey leading to a wrestling match that makes great professional wrestling. It's not throwing two jabronis together and having a match like you're playing Marvel versus Capcom. It's actually, it's two people with a good story, and then those two characters actually have a feud. It's more like, as I said, it's not Marvel versus Capcom, it's Naruto. And with Dalton Castle, he does have the voice to actually kind of instigate feuds. And there could be people picking on him because they could say something like, you're 40, you're too old, or, you look like a sissy, or the Young Bucks can be like, okay, we just want to pick on you because, you're just a washed up has-been from ROH, look at us, we're something, you're nothing. There's that thing you can do about the underdog. There's a thing you can do about, bullying, because obviously, people who dress metrosexually do get bullied a lot, or they do stand out because they're different. He stands out because he's different. There's a lot of things that you can do. And then also, if you do make him a little silly and comical, and then you actually transition him to somebody more serious, like you did with Eric Young, that would actually be a good transformation, from the clown to the hero, or like Naruto from the class clown to the village hero type of thing, So there's a lot with Dalton Castle. He's definitely highly underrated. And I really I really support him, man. And I really want to see him have a match at Double or Nothing. I really think that he needs some feuds, but also, he just needs to have a regular match. Do Dalton Castle versus Dustin Rhodes. So, I mean, like, really, really, really push Dalton Castle. There's something very special about him, and AEW needs to realize that.